And we're live.
Good evening, everyone. Today's presentation, we will share insight as to Sure Away Hunger, and Minnesota will use their present concept to help the homeless community by providing affordable shoes while together expanding that concept to the Las Vegas area. Next slide, please. Team one will demonstrate how donations collected via donation bins located throughout Las Vegas and through the use of community partners can aid us in helping the homeless community in Las Vegas and encourage community support and brand awareness. The proposed budget will include generating revenue by reducing and eliminating any overhead costs and using the funds generated to supply the Las Vegas community with quality footwear and groceries. Team one proposed the following revenue generated ideas on the next few slides for Shoo Away Hunger Las Vegas to be successful. Next slide, please. The revenue team recommends the following ideas to generate revenue for the Shoo Away Hunger. The next few slides explains each donation bin, collections, e-commerce, brand marketing, branding and marketing, and events and fundraising in detail. Joyce, please proceed.
Joyce, you might be on mute.
Joyce, you're on mute.
Well, I was doing really well too. The previous slides identified ways to generate revenue. We can eliminate some risk factors such as vandalism, theft, and fire by purchasing donation bins. Collect Donator was the most effective vendor selling the bins for a total of $1,089 each. This price includes signage on and around the bins displaying Shoo Away Hunger's mission to encourage community support and bring brand awareness. Okay. E-commerce. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm excited. Y'all forgive me. E-commerce. E-commerce would be the best way to sell the shoes via GoDaddy or Shopify using a free domain in addition to quarterly pop-up shops. Another option could include setting up Facebook or an eBay storefront or selling through Amazon as a third party. Each option is relatively simple and serves as an inexpensive way to get into online sales. E-commerce comes with pros and cons as its counterpart brick and mortar location. Housing the shoes collected and processing the shoes for delivery once purchased online would require standard operation procedures. Shoo Away Hunger can use the space needed to house the donated shoes and set up an e-commerce storefront to share with churches, community partners, and or rented lease space. Having a brick and mortar and e-commerce can be the best of both worlds and generate revenue on both ends of the spectrum. Branding and marketing strategies. Our team was able to identify various ways that Shoo Away Hunger Las Vegas can utilize building partnerships and volunteering. These strategies are ones we believe will benefit this organization. Partnering with local churches, colleges, homeless shelters, and other incentives can boost volunteer engagement and community relationships. With social media, platforms allow signage, flyers, and branded advertisement to promote and create brand awareness for Shoo Away Hunger Las Vegas. Ensuring a focus on building the brand is critical for Shoo Away Hunger Las Vegas to be successful. Canva is an online tool that can create custom designs through a website. It's free to create flyers, such as the example above, But if you wanted to use Canva at its fullest potential, Canva Pro would be a low monthly fee of $12.95. The Canva Pro allows access to social media platforms to post flyers and create a schedule to publish detailed information. Volunteers. Lastly, the collection bins and e-commerce components can boost the branding aspect, bringing positive attention to Sure Away Hunger by focusing on its mission and grab those interested in volunteering for a meaningful cause. Nature is up next.
Event flyers. We propose utilizing event flyers to bring awareness to your cause. The black and white flyer on the left is the one that can easily be reprinted for a black tie fundraising event. This would generate funds to supply the Las Vegas community with quality footwear and groceries. The colorful flyer you see on the right is also an example of what we suggest using for pop-up events. Ensuring the community is knowledgeable of Sure Away Hunger's mission and its presence in the community can also increase revenue generated, and this can be done by hosting events and pop-up shops. Next slide. The black tie event will provide Sure Away Hunger the branding and revenue needed for the company to be successful in any state. An annual black tie event allows Sure Away Hunger to cultivate relationships. With expanding into a new location, building relationships is very important. Cultivating a relationship with a potential donor before soliciting a donation can be the difference that turns a $100 donation into a $1,000 donation. The better you cultivate, the better chance you have of gaining a lifetime major donor. Organization transparency. A black tie event allows potential donors to interact with Sure Away Hunger leadership and volunteers. Donors can see the passion Sure Away Hunger have about helping drive out hunger in the Las Vegas area. You want to also pinpoint your audience. A black tie event will allow Sure Away Hunger to pinpoint individual donors and corporate donors over a period of time. Once the black tie event revenue goal has been established, Sure Away Hunger can then focus on the audience. By cultivating relationships, having organizational transparency, and pinpointing an audience, Sure Away Hunger can grow the black tie event year after year. More growth equals more revenue for groceries and other services for the Las Vegas area homeless population. Next slide. Sure Away Hunger presents Driving Out Hunger, an annual black tie event. This is the proposed budget for this event. The event space, initial cost, $1,500 total for 6 hours. The venue will provide AV, TV, podium, microphone, sound system free of charge. Catering, which normally is the most expensive part of event planning. The total budget for that is $2,870. This is a mixture of vegan, vegetarian, seafood, steak, and chicken options. I also propose having a raffle. At the Desert Pines Golf Community, where I have made connections so we can host the event there. They have a membership, a one-year membership that we can purchase for $500, and that we can then raffle that membership off to attendees of the black tie event. DJ average cost is $600. The music is not offered by the event. A photographer average cost $500. Having a photographer will capture all the moments during the event where you can mark it on your website in years to come. A bartender at about $150 can be provided by the venue. Floor arrangements will be about a cost of around $600. Floor centerpieces for the tables that are offered by the venue. Printing, $56.65. That is for printing of the invitations that we provided in previous slide to go out to potential attendees. And postage is $110. That is for mailing the invitation and providing postage for invitations to be, the RSVPs to be mailed back. Total budget for this is $6,886.65 with a proposed leverage amount of $2,375. The leverage amount equals what Sureway Hunger can receive from individual and corporate donors to offset the total cost. It's also important to know that hosting the event on a weekday will reduce the cost for the event space by $150 per hour. Next slide, please. The cost breakdown of the black tie event. Each guest will be charged $375 for a ticket, totaling $37,500. Jessica Murray, events manager at Desert Pines Golf Club, have confirmed the venue will donate a complimentary foursome round of golf. I propose Sureway Hunger also raffle this off at $50 per ticket, selling at least 75 tickets for an additional revenue of $3,750. The year membership, selling 25 tickets at $75 a piece, will total out to $1,875. Total revenue generated for the event, $43,125. With the preliminary budget without leverage of $6,886.65, Sureway Hunger can net a profit of $36,238.35. If the cost to feed one homeless person in the Vegas area is $2.50, the net revenue from the event will allow Sureway Hunger to provide groceries for approximately 14,495 homeless people a year throughout the Las Vegas area. Next up, we have Jada to speak on our pop-up events. Jada, you're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry. Pop-up events. I will provide information on shoe collection, monetary donations, overall pop-up event success recommendations, and event goal. Shoe collections. Quarterly promotional events such as pop-up shops will be proposed to drive revenue throughout Las Vegas. Sureway Hunger can partner with local community initiatives around the city to host drives and pop-up shops to sell and collect mildly used shoes, in addition to the strategically placed shoe collection bins. Hosting events with community partners could also increase foot traffic. The pop-up events should be strategic, making sure you're seeking the right location and measuring the success of the event. Monetary donations. Face-to-face interaction will allow for donors to get to know the company in greater detail, such as the mission and goals of the company. Sureway Hunger will be able to gauge how the potential donor is feeling and answer any concerns. Most importantly, the relationship building will begin, which is an important key to success of the company. The donor will see firsthand how the company conducts business and how the monetary donations and shoes collected will be used in a positive way. Overall pop-up event success. It requires proper planning in advance, finding a location that has lots of traffic, and provides the best option for Sureway Hunger to host the events. Allowing enough space to set up the pop-up events and having sufficient transportation for shoe donations. Establishing clientele, finding partners to offset some of the costs, and using creative ways to leverage marketing and advertising are all successful pieces to hosting an event. Event goal. The goal is to collect shoes and monetary donations to serve those in need. Sureway Hunger can boost community support and morale by inviting the community to participate in their events and to learn about the brand at the same time. Lastly, creating ways to draw good attention to the company is the objective, but being unique is the focal point of Sureway Hunger, Las Vegas. Next slide. All right, so the graph represents a projected cost of operating expenses for Sureway Hunger Las Vegas. We will start with the salary. Well, before I start with the salary, let me explain the colors. So the light blue is the budget total. The orange will be the leverage amount that we recommended or suggested based on information. And then the gray will be the total budget difference between the two. Salary. Salary range for a program coordinator in Las Vegas area is $47,568. The range was pulled from Indeed.com. The team was thinking that some of the salary costs could be leveraged with volunteers and a part-time worker instead of a full-time worker. The operational costs at $10,000. It would apply to all costs needed to sufficiently run a company, which includes but is not limited to rent and other costs deemed necessary to operate the business. The data includes approximate rates for rental office space that can hold 1 to 3 people, 100 to 150 square feet, located on the north side of Las Vegas, which ranges from $275 to $500 monthly, not including overhead expenses such as utilities and rental insurance. However, the operational budget recommended will cover the amount of the overhead expenses and utilities. The space could be used for office space, some storage, and maybe some training classrooms. Creating partnerships with a church or a community partner could allow all or some of the rental, storage, and training room costs to be leveraged. Supplies. Supplies usually include equipment, donation bins, general supplies, maintenance. Most of the supply line items are usually incurred by the company. However, the donation bins could be leveraged if a community partner is willing to donate a bin on behalf of Shoe Away Hunger as a contribution. We did budget $8,000 for supplies in the budget. Other charges, which can include advertising, branding, and printing materials, the work that will require a contract worker to build the brand in Las Vegas, both in person and online. Therefore, we budgeted $5,000 for that particular line item. Training costs. Training costs can be leveraged because Ms. Jamie Morrison can teach the life skills and job readiness classes at the leverage, and the space can be paid for at the same time. So we budgeted the $5,000 for that particular cost as well, but then we included a leverage for it. Contractual costs. Contracted worker primary focus would be building the brand, completing the marketing related duties, as well as posting and printing materials to make the community aware of Shoe Away Hunger's mission and goals. The person will also be responsible for keeping the community informed of the events and fundraisers. A range is provided on the budget that may or may not be used entirely during the budget year. The residual can be transferred to another line item as needed. The events, $6,886.65 is the line item that was pulled from the events cost breakdown that was presented in the previous presentation. So if we go all the way back up to the top, and I kind of just give you a breakdown now that I've explained each area. For the salary, we did give the $47,658. We leveraged $23,829, leaving a total difference of $28,829. The operational cost, we budgeted $10,000. We put a leverage of $6,000 in there, leaving $4,000 as the difference. For supplies, we budgeted $8,000. We leveraged 0 of the supplies and kept the difference at $8,000. Other charges, we put $5,000 in. We didn't leverage any of those costs. We kept that at $5,000 as well. Training costs, we put in $5,000. We leveraged that $5,000, which left us with 0. Contractual costs, we put in $20,000. We leveraged $10,000, which left us with the balance of $10,000. And the events costs $6,886.65. We leveraged $2,375 of those dollars, leaving a balance of $45,11.65. With that being said, the total budget cost for Shoe Away Hunger Las Vegas would have been $102,045. We leveraged $47,204, leaving a final total that will have to come out of pocket as $55,341. Keep in mind, the amounts does not account for factors that could have significant changes in revenue and expenses during that current year. Next, we will have May.
Competitive landscape, important factors. With respect to fundraising, operating costs, and other associated expenses, there are several important factors to consider. What about the ability to sustain servitude while continually growing? First, our team has identified a few of the major players within our industry. Other local givers include the Salvation Army, Goodwill Industries, and Soul Angels. These are just a few Las Vegas giving groups that also collect mildly used and or new shoes. Soul Angels, for instance, is a nonprofit establishment that partners with 10% of Las Vegas Title I schools. In addition to shoes, they distribute newly packaged socks for students in need. They also host an annual shoe drive. So how is Shoe Away Hunger Las Vegas any different? Well, I'm glad you asked. These groups may seem similar to that of Shoe Away Hunger Las Vegas. However, there's several differentiating factors. The competitive edge that Shoe Away Hunger Las Vegas has is all about its details, both how they generate revenue and through their determination. Their operation is one full of potential to grow their mission in Las Vegas, just as they've done successfully in Minnesota. Community partners. There's a quote by Winston Churchill that says, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." The very essence of Shoe Away Hunger's program is just that. They possess an innate desire to create a network of well-developed community partners, such as the Crossing Church. Just as they have done for their parent company, Good in the Hood, Shoe Away Hunger Las Vegas is destined for greatness. Next. Keys to success. Better understanding the competitive landscape equips Shoe Away Hunger Las Vegas with the ability to further extend their mission. They can do this through shoe collections, e-commerce, events and fundraising, relationship building, as well as sponsorships and donors. They specialize in connecting people of means with people of need. Through the creative implementation of these 5 critical keys, Team 1 believes that Shoe Away Hunger Las Vegas will successfully generate revenue. Again, the goal here is to see as many positive outcomes as possible as a direct result of giving. Doing so will bring aid and a notable awareness to underserved Las Vegas communities. We've done our research and we're very confident that these 5 keys epitomize the cornerstone in which Shoe Away Hunger Las Vegas will exceed their goals. Next. Final thoughts. Statistically speaking, there is a steadily growing underserved population right here in the United States. A 2018 article by JP Morgan states, on a single night, there are 1 in every 3 people who faces homelessness. 20% of these individuals are under the age of 20, meaning 65% of those seeks cover in a shelter, leaving still a 35% of people out on the street with no place to call home. To put things into a better perspective, these numbers were calculated well before our country had succumbed to this year's pandemic. According to Simmons University, by the year 2050, there will be a whopping 95,000 estimated elders that are expected to be living without expected to be without stable living. There is a global impact. Despite the misconception that poverty-stricken individuals merely make up a small portion of our country, the harsh reality is that right now, even in the year of 2020, the faces of those most destitute is identical to yours and mine. Therefore, the responsibility is ours as well. While there has been a significant growth in giving, so lies the need for growth in supportive measures and fresh designs to extend this massive labor of love in order to make a difference. Prospectus. The revenue team was fortunate enough to be presented with an opportunity to relay its novice expertise to an amazing set of founders. While our desire was to better equip them with directive aspects coupled with their measures of exponential giving, the evidence-based practices, extensive research, and innovative structure collectively was meticulously designed with this in mind. Shoo Away Hunger Las Vegas is well on its way to strategically meeting their goal of turning a profit by implementing the aforementioned concepts. Team salutations. Being a small contributor in this beautifully crafted program of care is one that leaves lasting imprints on our hearts. We mutually agree and stand proudly with the sentiments of its executive director, Sean Morrison, that Shoo Away Hunger will by design inspire intentional kindness. Finally, it is with great sincerity that the revenue team and I would like to extend a very special thank you to the pioneers of Shoo Away Hunger, Jamie and Sean Morrison, those of you joining us this evening, Mr. Deers, Dr. Bucherer, I think I mispronounced that, I apologize, Mr. Renson, and Sean and Jamie Morrison. You have kindly imparted your wisdom, your patience, and commitment to others by allowing us the opportunity to work collectively in such a phenomenal capacity. With your dedicated leadership and lasting willpower from its conception up until this point, we support you in your mission to simply meet shoes with feet by influencing individuals for good. Thank you. Next. Everyone, this concludes our presentation, and we would like to open the floor for any questions you may have at this time.
May, thank you very much. Great job, ladies. All right, let's go ahead and let's put the video back on, and let's open it up for questions. And you can come off of mute if you like as well.
Since I usually dominate, I'll reserve my questions and comments to the end, because I got a background as a preacher, so they just don't know how to stop talking.
Hey, I've got a couple comments. Just and I remember from our previous call, Nature, I think it was you that had the background in running events, and so love that part of the presentation, and would welcome you to come this way when we start Las Vegas to run that event for us. Okay, so first of all, consider that an invitation.
Well, I would love the opportunity to come to Vegas.
Wonderful.
I actually, my background, I work with a nonprofit, and I'm in the finance part of it. I actually think Chandrea had the background in events, but I would love to come to Vegas and work with her. We will put it all the way together.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you can consider that an open invitation. I love the idea of the, and Sean, you're probably familiar with this already, but it was new to me, that idea of kind of the drop-off bins, a collection point that allows things to happen without having necessarily people there manning it, collecting it, all that kind of thing. That's an interesting concept as well that I think could be feasible. So nice job on there.
Thank you.
Ladies, I will say, absolutely loved your presentation. You brought it down to numbers, you brought it down to specifics, you made contacts in Vegas. Absolutely impressed by that. I agree with David. I'd love to see a few of you in that pilot project to be able to be involved with some of the expertise, both from the finance, from the event, and just some of the connections that you're thinking about with regard to Vegas. I felt like you were really in line with some of the thoughts that Sean and I have. We would be able to bring that, some of that heart behind it, but definitely want to see some of that wisdom. So thank you. You did a lot of work. And quite frankly, this is something that is practical enough that we can really build on. So thank you very much. Great job.
Thank you.
You.
I wanted to add one last thing. I had extensive conversations with Jessica Murray at the Desert Pine Golf event, casino. So if you're really interested in putting together a black tie event, she is very eager to work with you. And I have included all her contact information in the presentation and the paper.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
Thank you, ladies, for a great presentation. I appreciate all your comments and work you put into this. I just have a few questions. I'll start with the event since that's dominating the conversation. So you alluded to having a photographer so that we can reuse the images that were captured
Yes.
for future marketing purposes. Any considerations for attendees not wanting to use their images for future marketing?
Yes. That will be a part of, we can put that as part of the SOPs. If someone chooses not to have their images used, they can sign off on that, and we can not use those images.
So a good recommendation, Renson, would be if they are attending the event, as they're approaching the table to check in, you can kind of have some disclaimer out there. And if they're interested in having their photos published, then they will be for it. And if they're not, they can just sign a waiver stating that they are not. And then that way you all will have some kind of legal background stating that they refuse to have their pictures published.
Thank you. What about, I think there was a suggestion about keeping the community informed throughout, after they've attended an event. I did not hear specifics as to how you intend or you suggest that we should do that.
Keeping the community informed about the black tie event, or just keeping the community informed about Sure Away Hunger in general?
About Sure Away Hunger, the events, future events, and how they can participate and volunteer with the organization.
So we came up with several initiatives that may work. The bins was definitely one of the options. If you print the label, the mission information on the bins, when you're doing a donation drop off, they will have information as to what you all are about and what you stand for. Yeah. But addition to that, that's why we included in the cost for the budget a person to actually be contracted to build the brand. Because you're new to Las Vegas, you're not going to have people who's familiar about Sure Away Hunger because you're not located there initially. So you will need someone to be able to post on those social media platforms, be able to increase that influencer in that Las Vegas area to make sure that you all are actually getting the word out to those individuals. So those are some of the things that we gave you all to use to try to build up that clientele and build the community relationships in the Las Vegas area.
I can piggyback off of that a little bit. The person that will be building the brand in 2020 and during a pandemic, I'm sure it will be social media driven. That is how our organization gets out a lot of our upcoming events and solicit donations from our current clientele. So that will be the driving force in Las Vegas. It's social media. The bins could have Sure Away Hunger recognition on them, and word of mouth. Once we get a list of high dollar donors and donors in general in Las Vegas, you can send out blast emails letting them know about upcoming events. And though there are ways you can purchase or then leverage amounts for lists to market within the Las Vegas area.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. So when you talk about branding and you're talking about having a consultant to help with that work, I think that's probably the biggest cost that we can encounter in rolling out this program. Marketing will be very expensive. Mm-hmm. You in your presentation you talked about differentiating between us and Salvation Army, and I think Goodwill was another example you provided.
All Angels.
Yes. So how do you suggest we should set ourselves apart from those organizations that are very well imprinted in people's mind? They're very well known, and in some ways how do you differentiate ourselves so that people do not think that we're duplicating efforts?
So you're definitely going to need that wow factor.
Mhm.
You have to figure out what's going to wow people with Shoo Away Hunger. So that's where the uniqueness piece come in that I mentioned in one of my slides. You have to figure out how do you stand out? What makes you all so much different from the other individuals who have similar, I guess who's similar in retail. They collect similar donations to you all, but what's going to make Shoo Away Hunger much different than the Goodwill, the Soul Angels? And I work for Goodwill, I work for a nonprofit. So there are different aspects that you all can do on your end that the Goodwills may not be able to do because they're so much bigger. Goodwill is international. You all a lot smaller, so you have the flexibility to do different things and bring that different uniqueness in to separate you all from the rest of the people.
I can tell you with my nonprofit organization, because we compete with the Goodwills and Salvation Army, as Jada has stated. Our black tie event is what sets us apart. And that's a major generator. It brings in over $1 million a year.
Mhm.
And for the Goodwill, it's the retail stores. The retail stores is our revenue generated component that feeds back into the workforce development side, which is what I work on, but that funds that piece of it in a major aspect. So you just have to figure out what's that niche for you all to separate you all from the others.
Great thoughts on that. So my other question that I had was the e-commerce idea. I think was brilliant in such. But I was just curious, because we're dealing with used products, we're dealing with donated products. More likely than not, they'll be more used than new. How do you suggest we handle returns?
Yeah, we thought about that, and I kind of researched a little, but I'm not too familiar with e-commerce. I did some research for this component to make sure that I was kind of familiar with it. But I was thinking personally, and you all may have a different idea, but if it's a return, like I've had some items I've ordered before, and because it's a used item or it was a low cost item, the company usually states that we'll return your money, but keep the shoes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it may not be cost efficient to a certain extent to go ahead on and have them ship it back. So let's just say they purchased the shoes for $5. It's gonna probably cost them more than $5 to ship it back to you. So you might as well just let them know, okay, if you were not satisfied with the product, we will return the refund, but we will allow you to keep the shoes still.
Is that open to manipulation?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Will that be open to manipulation, or some clients taking advantage of the organization?
To a certain extent, everybody won't know that. That's not something you're going to advertise personally. That's just going to be an individual basis based on the return and why they're returning the item. So I would think that would have to be an individualized concept that you determine. Is that something is it something you want to ask them to actually keep, or do you really want them to return it? So let's just say someone donated a brand new pair of shoes and he bought those brand new pair of shoes. Then you're definitely going to want them to send that brand new pair of shoes back. But if it's not a brand new pair of shoes and it's not cost efficient to get it. So I would say individual basis based on the reason. So when you're having them complete a return request, you probably need to have some options in there and have them describe the reason that they're returning it. And then that can kind of give you an idea of how you want to decide if you want to allow them to keep it or not.
And you can set a return policy with so many days to return, and you can have a policy, certain items sales are final. And that would mitigate that part of the returns.
Yeah, I'll just jump in quick too. That's a really good question, by the way, Renson. I think you have to build in loss leaders along the way. There's, retail stores, they know there's theft and shoplifting. I think you build in loss leaders, and as a nonprofit, you never want to lose your reputation over one item. If it becomes a thing that becomes ongoing and a significant loss, you have to, consider whether it's the right venue. But having said that, I agree. I think it was Jada, you said it, probably the shipping would be not make it worth sending the shoes back. And really, you just kind of cut that as a loss. Some places I've even heard that on e-commerce, they make money on the shipping, and they actually make very little on the product
Product.
itself. I mean, in some cases, I don't think that's an ongoing thing, but I think, you know, that has to be looked at by a cumulative volume scenario.
Another option you can look at as well. Now, we'd have to look at it, how you manage it. But I had a return earlier this summer where I had through Amazon, where I had ordered an umbrella string, right? One of my patio umbrella, the string broke, right? And of course, you know, you can buy everything on Amazon, right? So I go to Amazon, sure enough, they sold the string, and it was like $10. And so I bought this string, and it was the identical string I had, except when I got it, it was just the slightest too big, and so it wouldn't fit in the mechanism, right? So I couldn't use it, but it had a return policy. But what they did was, so I returned it. I went down to like Kohl's and dropped it off, and returned it. But instead of them refunding my money, I got a credit. So I've got a credit sitting at Amazon out there for like $11, and will I ever use it? I don't know.
That's a good point.
But now, how do you manage those credits? Again, that's it's something we'd have to look at.
I did want to mention the thing about the e-commerce piece that was extremely important to our team was managing and tracking all orders. Without having that system established, it's very difficult to make sure that each customer or donor or volunteer has what we like to call in the military a black and white tracker. So that's kind of why we wanted to make sure we inserted the e-commerce portion, simply because it's a perfect tracking system for all sales, returns, and as Nature was saying, a disclaimer about case by case scenario. So that was the main reason we wanted to insert that portion.
Renson, do you have additional questions?
No, that'll be good for now. Thank you.
Yeah, that's some good ones. Thank you. I know we're kind of time crunched a little bit, so I want to be sensitive to that. But let me say this: I really enjoyed your proposal. I feel like you did what I asked you to do in this sense. You covered a number of things, but I think you listened to us when we said, it's not about cutting costs, and it's also about relationship building. I think you heard that, and you also really hit the part on leveraging really well. So thank you for that. Those are things that are important, that gave us a budget of, we'll just say what we would probably spend on we'll say a worst case scenario, because my favorite word is free. So, and you heard that, and then you gave us, if we could get some donations and even half, then here's what, that leveraging could happen, and just excellent on that. And that was really helpful. I won't go through it all, and I hope I don't miss anybody or make anybody feel bad that I didn't call out your specific area, but each and every one of you did a fantastic job. I didn't feel like there was a weakness in this team. I felt like you were really, you all contributed significantly. But there was some things that, I thought the black tie event, you showed us an event that could happen, and you went out of your way to make sure we had an opportunity to actually do it by creating a partnership. Cost effective, my goodness, I would have never thought we could even come close to that kind of cost. So that was, kudos to you in doing that. That was amazing. Something like that probably, in my mind, is going to be a $20,000 event at the bare minimum, and you're under 10. So that's, you really nailed it there. So thank you. And I think those costs are legit because you did your research behind the scenes. So, my thought, and this is just me thinking, why not do a black tie event that's really formal and ask everybody to come in bare feet, and donate their shoes. So, make it a unique event, that kind of thing, and have fun with it. Of course, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but it's a really good thing. And then, and I think all of this is, what's our wow factor? Jada, you mentioned that, really good point. Pandemics particularly can be a sinkhole of excuses, or they can be what I would maybe call a trampoline of opportunities that can propel us further and faster and with more motivation and resolve in our mission. And as we look at this in, all that we're doing, our goal is to make sure people have shoes on their feet that have need, make sure that we feed people. So how that gets done is, there's going to be a wow factor. It could happen just exactly like you've shared and laid out this roadmap. Along the way, we might partner with a group like you mentioned, Soul Angels. They're already doing things in schools. We want to touch shelters in schools. Salvation Army, they're already doing things in shelters. What if we became, and not to be punny because we're shoo away hunger, but the feeder for them, and we raise support to make them better at what they do. See, nonprofits aren't in competition. Charities are on the same team, trying to help mitigate a need. So I think all of that, you gave us a framework for being able to think and creatively respond in a way that's going to really have some energy behind it. And this is really wonderful. So thank you for that. And I mean, the e-commerce certainly brings in revenue potential. There's always going to be gaps in these. There's always going to be some weaknesses. We have to identify those and determine whether or not those weaknesses are so great that they're going to take too much time and energy to really overcome, and we should move in another direction, or if they're worth resolving in order to do the most good. And I think, e-commerce has a lot of potential right now because of the pandemic. So I hate to say it this way, but never let a good crisis go to waste. We should be using this to do more good because there's going to be more need. And I think, if we can raise more revenue during a season where online and e-commerce is really big, I think that's going to be huge. Bringing people together for an event might be the bigger challenge. It's a great idea, but that might be our biggest challenge. But that can be in our back pocket, and maybe we can figure out a way to do it, in a different way, in a unique way. And that could be some of our wow factor, is not letting the pandemic get in the way. I'll quick use an example. We do holiday help, and we pivoted, created a quick video. And normally in our holiday, we have people come in and shop for gifts, but the pandemic won't let people come together. So we've told everybody, sponsors, give us gift cards. We're going to do curbside deliveries and add groceries to every person that comes through. Literally, we can't keep up with the wave of donations. And so it's just going crazy. So having said that, there's going to be some opportunities here that we can create, some really innovative things. And you've given us that framework for this. The bins, another example. You not only said bins, you gave us a cost. So we know it's about $1,089, and that's a doable price. Now the question is how many bins, not if. And of course, there's always challenges. People will throw, garbage in them. They shouldn't, and all that. We're gonna have to, deal with that. But hopefully, we can establish our presence there in places where the shoes that are being collected aren't going to be in those places where people typically trash things. They're going to be in places where people are donating nicer items. So I think we have to be wise there where we place them. And, but we got to figure out how to do that in a place that's, how many do we need, maybe is the question. Anyway, I can make a lot more comments. I want to be just sensitive to time here. And so Dr. Chris, maybe you or Cheryl, you might want to have some comments too, but I'm really pleased. So thank you.
Great. Cheryl, I'll turn it over to you real quick for some comments.
Sure. I really enjoyed this presentation. Your solutions were unique and very well thought out very well. So I really liked. I never thought of a black tie event. How wonderful is that? Some really great ideas. E-commerce, but Renson did bring up a part, perhaps a sticking point. But my mind immediately went back to, make it a pay it forward kind of return policy. It didn't work for you. Okay, pay it forward, give it to the next person and have that as part of your policy kind of thing. So somebody still gets use out of these shoes. So it's a good thing. So you all did a great job. So congratulations, MBA graduates.
Yes, ladies, great job. May, Jada, Tuan, Joyce, Nature, outstanding job. Really proud, really honored to be your instructor during these last 9 weeks. Only 1 week left, so really great job. I'm going to go ahead and kill the recording at this point.